Top of the Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to this baby we call the Sweat, a program we bring you here on Saturday and Sunday mornings, live from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Time on DK Network and VSiN. I'm your host, Emerson Lancia, sitting alongside two of my best friends, Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow. Top of the morning to both of you. How are you today?
I'm just happy that anybody who's watching is watching us 8 in the morning on a beautiful Sunday.
It is so nice outside. What are we doing here?
It is that time. It's not.
Damn.
It's June. Summer is starting. Like, it's the best time of year.
Yeah, it really is. It's a pretty good month for some betting, which we will talk about in just a moment. Jules, you doing all right this morning?
Doing great. This break in NBA has me sleeping.
You have looked fresh, as we mentioned on yesterday's show.
He was actually here before you today.
Yeah, that's right.
And he lives a block away.
Okay. All right. Don't give out my address here, Jules. No, just kidding. Come on over, everybody. All right, boys. We got a big show today, per usual. Here's a little bit of what we're talking about. So we're going to dive into some NFL futures. Lamar hasn't showed up to OTAs, and because of that, he's already out like $1 million. We're talking the reigning NFL MVP here. What's that?
Darn.
Yeah, I hope he makes it.
Darn. Yeah, I know.
Hope
really?
he survives.
Right? What are they going to do with that $1 million? Send it to us. Jules, you will talk to good friend Joe Osborne as you'll dive into some NBA Finals bets. Again, that doesn't tip off until Thursday. And then the Cats have made their way back to the Cup, back-to-back seasons here. So Jeff Ulrich will join us. We will break down another Cup Finals appearance for Florida, and maybe which team he is backing tonight, as Edmonton has a chance to represent the West on the final stage. And Jeff, being a diehard Oilers fan, I'm sure it'll be in his
completely unbiased
opinion. But let's start the show the same way we start the show every Saturday and Sunday morning. Let's work up a sweat. Let's do it right now. And Steve, you're batting leadoff this morning. See what I did there?
I did see what you did there. It's another wonderful day. It's another beautiful Sunday.
I can't get over it.
And what better to culminate that by betting against the man who has been a cash cow for people betting against him. And that is Blake Snell. Blake Snell. Here, you know what's funny about this?
You were talking about this before the show.
I bet against Blake Snell every time.
You know what's funny about this is, like, everybody was like hemming and hawing. Oh, who's going to sign Blake Snell? He's the reigning Cy Young. Dude just won the Cy Young like 7 months ago.
Yeah, he did.
Has an ERA north of 10 in like 7. So,
he's been that. I know he's been terrible, but I didn't know he's been that terrible.
Every game. It's crazy how you can go from the Cy Young winner in baseball to like the Patrick Corbin of like betting against this guy every day.
It's been incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm looking over the stats and everything because I like to do like these little deep dives when I'm betting into stuff. Doesn't mean I'm going to win. Like I didn't win yesterday, but. There's just a couple of really eye-opening things about Blake Snell in particular that I just wanted to point out. Now, he's primarily a fastball pitcher, so you want to look up the Yankees numbers and how they do against the fastball. They actually haven't been a great team against the fastball when thrown by a left-handed pitcher. So I go, okay, there's one knock for the Yankees. But then I go and look at Blake Snell's stats and what he's thrown so far this year and what opposing hitters has done against those pitches. Blake Snell is throwing his fastball 48% of the time. Opposing hitters are hitting 400 off of his fastball so far this season with a 495 WOBA. And if you're not familiar with WOBA, basically it's like a catch-all stat. It's, how you get on base, and then like if you're doing it by doubles, triples, it basically is a batting average on steroids. So it basically kind of tells you, how these guys are getting on base and then what that really would look like. So that's what WOBA is. So I love using that stat there because it's a really good catch-all. Against his changeup, which he's throwing just about a third of the time. They're hitting 381 against that pitch with a 472 WOBA. So I'm taking the Yankees on the run line here today to have them win by at least 2 runs. They have Nestor Cortez going for them on that side, going against the Giants offense that has been extremely hit or miss. But the Yankees have also been one of the best run line teams in the league. They have the second best record on the run line, only to the Royals, who are the top team in the league. But the Yankees are 35-27 on the run line so far this season. Blake Snell, I would think, is going to figure it out at some point. But I don't think that some point is here today against the Yankees, who have just been, especially Aaron Judge, who just came off an unbelievable month of May.
Dude, he had a 464-foot tater yesterday,
Yeah,
too, to start the month of June.
He's been unbelievable. So give it the Yankees to win this game by at least 2 runs, getting that plus 114 on DraftKings Sportsbook.
That team looks like a freight train right now, leading the division. Jules, what are you working up a sweat about this morning?
Yeah, so this break between NBA Finals games essentially gives some time to dive into some college football. And we have all 134 FBS win totals posted on DK Sportsbook. So any major team that you want to bet on, you can get that over-under now. It is out. So I'm going to quickly highlight 2 today. Both overs, both win totals of 7.5. I'll start with Oregon State because they're a tough one to find. Not a lot of books that even have major conferences up have Oregon State up. DraftKings was the first place to put it up, and others that since have put it up have it at a much higher price than the minus 105 you can get on the Beavers to go over 7.5 wins. It's a little bit tricky of a handicap, but that's what I like about it. Oregon State was in the Pac-12 last year and won 9 games in the Pac-12. That's really good. The Pac-12 was the best conference, and they were in the mix to win it. Now, lose the coach, lose the quarterback, lose the starting running back. They lost a lot of pieces this year, but the Pac-12 came undone, obviously. So they're kind of like an honorary member of the Mountain West, but not officially a member, so they're an independent this year. Going through their schedule, they're like 3 touchdown underdogs in the month of September when they play Oregon. Oregon's like a top 4 team in the nation. That might be the only time that Oregon State is an underdog this year, and we've got a win total of 7.5. Boise State will probably be their other toughest game. They do play Washington State, who's the other kind of independent that dropped out of the Pac-12. Go ahead.
I see they're both paying the Mountain West, too, $14 million
paying the Mountain West to kind of like hop in for a year or 2, but they're not in it. But they play a Mountain West schedule. Oregon State, even with the missing pieces, like they brought enough back and filled in enough gaps to maintain some of that success. So that's one right there, right off the bat, that I do like. They're not going to threaten to like make the college football playoff or anything, but they're going to be a solid team that plays the drop-off in schedule from the Pac-12 last year to playing 2 Pac-12 teams this year is huge for this team. So I'll go there. The other one, Oklahoma State, Cowboys. Got to pay the minus 135 juice for the over 7.5, but it's up to like minus 160 some other shops and probably gets to 8 before the season kicks off. So this is one that you want to get early. Big 12. Bye-bye Texas. Bye-bye Oklahoma. Those powerhouses are in the SEC. I like Utah a lot. Like Utah plus 330 to win the Big 12. I like another strong Pac-12 team coming in with a lot of that top-end talent dropping out. But Oklahoma State always surprises. They were in the conference title game last year. They got smoked by Texas, but they got there. To be at 7.5 wins, which they generally exceed, and have Texas and Oklahoma out. They do host Utah. That's like a coin flip game, I believe, around a pick'em game if you scroll through the games. But they've got a pretty solid schedule and a chance to, win 9 games again. So I think 7.5 is pretty modest there. So just a couple examples. I have more, but like getting in on the college football win totals early when a 7.5 turns to an 8.5 before the season starts, and we're talking about 12 games, that's huge value.
All right, so I was talking with producer Tom Glennon earlier in the week, and we were discussing the fact it's a great story, right? We were discussing the fact of, hey, what are the best sports betting months on the calendar? And now that we are in June, and Steve, you have made it very clear, you are a big fan of the month of June. Is June, gentlemen, the best sports betting month right now? Because any month with 3 national championships, I think, should be taken seriously. You got the NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Finals, not to mention the possibility of Game 7s along the way in both of those sports, and then the U.S. Open, and then every so often it brings up one of the best scenarios in all of gambling with a thoroughbred looking to secure the Triple Crown at the Belmont Stakes. The Champions League title game yesterday, Real Madrid winning that thing. Where do you guys think the month of June ranks among best sports betting months?
I mean, June has a lot of obscure events that I'm not going to care about, right? French Open.
And also, it's a sweet. Well, you should care about it in a way with baseball. It's a sweet spot for betting
better
baseball.
For him.
Yeah,
it's pretty low for me.
Yeah, I would
on my rankings. Yeah. Like as hyped up as I am for the NBA Finals, particularly with the Celtics in it. betting wise, that's only a handful of games.
September, I think, is pretty elite.
October for me,
Yeah.
as
Okay.
basketball gets going, overlaps with the heart of football season. That middle of October when NBA tips through like New Year's, where you get the college football bowl and playoff games mixed in with the heart of NFL, mixed in with college basketball and NBA starting. That's the peak for me right now.
Yeah, I would probably agree with you on like September.
I think September is-
I'm surprised yours isn't. You didn't rank July 1 because you can bet on the hot dog eating contest.
Oh yeah, which by the
I
way,
do
we'll
every
talk
year.
to some of those competitors, by the way, and we'll have
Did
some
you
interviews on the show.
Did you
up
see
to
that
it.
sicko was doing ice cream?
Ice cream, yeah, he was pounding ice cream.
Where was that at the
Joey
Cleveland
Chestnut.
game, right?
I don't know where
it was.
I think it
I just
was.
watched him put down like 4 or 5 bowls and then just stopped watching.
That
while he
because
was
that's
going.
that's actual pain.
And
that
Chestnut
range.
was the halftime entertainment at the Celtics-Cavs game. At one of them, like this past season too. I forget what he was eating,
Cleveland.
pierogies or something like that. But yeah, the Celtics won that game.
Yep.
So
Oh,
they're
great.
They're Celtics 1-0
don't-
this season in games in which Joey Chestnut.
If you don't
eats
put
food
in at least
halftime.
one bet on July 4th on the hot dog eating contest, you are not an American.
Amen, amen, sister. Okay.
Amen.
Let's poke over to the NFL next and see how these guys feel about the Bears being on Hard Knocks. All right, folks, back here live on The Sweat, where it is time now for a healthy dose of NFL spin move.
Okay.
That's right. Inside 100 days until the NFL season kicks off. So let's rip through some futures bets right now. And let's start with the Bears here, guys. The Bears have been announced as the next team that will be featured on Hard Knocks, which will premiere on August 6th. Are you guys still Hard Knocks people, by the way?
It's kind of fallen off.
Yeah.
It's
I'll
not.
watch.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm flipping through and I catch it, then fine. But I don't go out of my way to.
It's in August. We were ranking sports betting months on the other side. August, pretty low.
Yeah.
Even if you're a baseball bettor, that's like the grind of the
Dog
season.
days.
Yeah,
kind of
I
that
think
big
August
zone.
could be the worst month.
August
so.
is a good time for Hard Knocks. I will always watch.
Okay,
That
yeah.
Cowboys one was
I thought
bad.
you didn't watch TV besides live sports.
That counts as sports, though.
Yeah,
when
that
it's in
does count as
August.
sports.
All right.
The last two,
I'll
so the
allow it.
Lions and then who was last year? The Jets.
Yeah.
Those last two were good.
Yeah.
Cowboys won a couple.
That's right, and I think there are some pros. I think there's some cons to it. I think one of the pros is the Bears can kind of repair their team's brand like a little bit, but then also, fun fact, I don't know if I would actually call it a Hard Knocks curse. It might be stretching a little bit, but that's because a lot of these teams obviously are coming off losing seasons. But since 2014, here's a fun fact.
Tell us.
Only 4 teams featured have posted winning records, and just 3 qualified for the playoffs here. You obviously have Caleb Williams, the #1 overall pick here. So as you think more about this team, though, guys, 8.5 is the win total on the DK Sportsbook. Jules, right now, which way would you lean?
Under. But so like looking at the juice here, it's minus 165 to the over, plus 140 to the under 8.5. Now, this has the feel with the, but I'm so important to say I'm not betting it now. This has the feel of something that's going to pick up hype over the summer.
Yep.
It's the Bears. People
I think
want them
it's
to be
already
good.
there,
People
honestly.
want to bet them.
Yeah.
Then Hard Knocks is going to air, and this is going to go up to 9.
Yeah.
9.5. What I want to get is like flip it the other way. I want like an under 9.5 at minus 160 or so, which we could get. And if the Bears go 10-7 with a rookie quarterback in a good division, then I lose, and I'll take my L. But I'm going to wait. I think this is going to go the other way. If anything, we know we always put out alternate win totals on DK Sportsbook for a wide range. So at one point, whether the line actually moves or not, I'm going to get what I want here. It just depends on the price. A lot of hype. Like, I love what they did at receiver. They have a decent defense. They're going to be solid. I just think there's a little too much hype here on a rookie quarterback that has the C.J. Stroud talent for sure, does not have the C.J. Stroud makeup. Like, I love everything about how C.J. Stroud is put together. Caleb Williams, a little more questionable, I guess, with his, I don't want to say character, but just his toughness, ability, makeup. Like, he's a tough football player, but he has a lot of stuff off the field that has come up. There's just a lot of distractions, a lot of hype. I would try and get 9.5, and go under.
I mean, talking about the hype, like we talked about this a couple weeks ago, you're laying the most points with a week 1 rookie quarterback in that.
Yeah.
Dude,
matchup
they're
against
minus
the Titans.
120 to make the playoffs, so they're expected to make the playoffs. That's wild to me.
But you're laying the most points with a week 1 rookie quarterback against the Titans since like the 1988, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. And then kind of like what Julian just alluded to as well, like this isn't like a easy division either. Packers
Yes.
win totals set at 9.5 wins, minus 155 to make the playoffs. So you're talking about an implied probability of 61%. Lions, 10.5 wins, minus 245 to make the playoffs, implied probability there of 71%. But then at the same time, you literally have given Caleb Williams everything to succeed. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Adune's Komet, Gerald Everett, DeAndre Swift, like
Roma Dunze.
I know.
I'll help you out.
It's fine, man.
Vikings might not even be that bad. What if Sam Darnold is solid?
I mean,
they might not be that bad.
So if
But
you're
here's the interesting thing, though, real
Okay.
quick. So the Bears have one of the easiest schedules, in the league. However, 6 of the last 8 games are the divisional games. They don't play a divisional foe until week 11. That's insane, and that is going to change the landscape of that division. 6 of the last 8 games against divisional opponents. Like, that is where everything is going to shift. That's where you're going to make the playoffs or not. It's like,
They don't have an
it's
NFC
crazy.
North game until week 11.
Week 11.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. So it's, that really has to come into play. I think that really needs to be thought about because that is going to change so much in the final 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah, you mentioned how tough that division is. You mentioned the Lions and Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson. So he decided to stay in Detroit and not pursue any open head coaching jobs around the NFL. It was a surprise to many in the NFL world. And here's what he said recently on his decision to stick around.
Right after the championship game, he got on the plane and just thinking about something that coach had said. So 2021 and the early part of 2022, he had made this analogy to the team just about how we were sailing down the ocean, and at that moment we were in the Arctic. We were hitting the icebergs. We had the storms going on, and those were dark days. But he had the foresight, he had the vision of where we were going and where we were heading. He assured us, guys, I see it. I see where we're going. The results haven't been there yet, but the Caribbean is on the horizon. It's coming up. And I'm sitting on the plane, I'm thinking back to that, and just the story of my career has been living in that Arctic for a lot of it. That was the second time I've been to the playoffs. The first time I'd experienced winning games in the playoffs. I think when it boils down to it, I wanted the sunshine a little bit longer.
All right, so Johnson's saying, I like the sunshine. He doesn't mean literally, because there's an average of only 75 sunny days in Detroit here, gentlemen.
But you spent your time researching for this show.
I actually did. I researched it yesterday, and I said, well, damn, that's not many sunny days, which is why I really embrace sunny days here in Boston, which we get way more of. 10.5. It's a pretty big number. Team's coming off a historic season, though. And now that the offensive coordinator is sticking around, Steve, how much does that install confidence in you taking that over?
I mean, it's hard to poke holes in this team. Like, offensively, defensively. Like, I actually think that they have the best offensive line in the league, like overtaking the Eagles. And we talked about how good they were last year. I think that the Lions are right there. If there was one concern I did see, and I did want to mention, is that they were 5-3 last year in one-score games. Flip that around. How much different does this team look, right? So there is that concern there. But this is a team that won 12 games last year, went 4-2 in the division, and you're basically bringing that same team back here this year. So you like this team, but again, it's a tough division because now the Bears are going to be, legit contenders. How are the Packers going to be in another year with Jordan Love and, his cast of characters at wide receiver, if you want to call it at this point. But that offensive line, if they stay healthy, is going to be one of the best in the league to protect Jared Goff. But again, those one-score games, and obviously the Vikings were very famous for that last year, but the Lions were right there as well. Like, what if, like I mentioned, what if that was different? What if they were 3-5 in those one-score games? How would we perceive this team moving forward here for this year? But they're a very stacked team on both sides of the ball, and I think they're going to be successful.
Jules, would you rather bet them at plus 150 right now, early in June, to win the division, opposed to going over the wins?
It feels like they should win the division, and obviously we're out on the Bears, it sounds like. Yep. I kind of like the Packers, though. I think, just looking at NFC odds, the Niners are still the team. I think Detroit's the second-best team again, and that was the championship game. But, Eagles, Cowboys are next. I would take the Packers, arguably, as the third team there. So Detroit's good. Like Steve said, hard to poke holes. There's a lot of hype around them. I would probably rather back the Packers or fade the Bears, talking about NFC North teams, rather than get involved with the Lions, who seem pretty appropriately priced.
All right, well, real quick before we go to break, it's this $1 million mystery. We talked about it at the top of the show. Where is Baltimore's top player? Lamar Jackson has been skipping voluntary OTA practices for reasons that have not been divulged here. Here's his head coach.
It's this time of year. It's a voluntary time. It's really not something that we comment on. We can't. And it's just the time of year it is, so I can't speak for anybody that's not here. I pretty much know the different reasons guys aren't here most of the time, but not always. Nobody's required to tell you exactly what's going on, so I'm not really specifically going to be able to comment on anybody that way. But the guys that were here were great, flying around, and those are the guys we had a great time coaching.
All right, fifth best odds to win MVP. Can he repeat Lamar Jackson? This seems a little odd here. I'm not quite sure why Harbaugh can't comment on it, why he's not there.
I don't give a crap about this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is like
way too early to care.
June NFL drama is so meaningless, right? Like, quarterback competitions. Like, give me a break. I don't care if the guy's out there. Tom Brady used to not go to these things either, and he was just fine when it turned around. I don't care. Lamar Jackson's going to be just fine.
Jules, are you as positive about this story as Steve?
Lamar Jackson should have a great year. I'm not going to bet him to win MVP again. It's just tough guy to bet to repeat that performance. A runner, could he get hurt? I don't know. Too much hype.
All right, we'll continue to help you prepare for betting the NBA Finals after this break. Stick around. Jules has some information he needs to share with you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, information. Real. Well, we are still waiting for the NBA Finals to tip, and we will have to continue to wait until Thursday when the Mavs will be in Boston to face the Celtics for Game 1. We broke this game down a lot yesterday, You're going to be breaking it down with Joe coming up in the show.
Joe Osborne.
Yep.
Covers.
Yep, indeed. Love it. Love his work. But let's get back into it, just for anyone who may have missed some of it yesterday. Storylines galore here, Jules, including Kyrie Irving, who I was unaware yesterday, I don't think we mentioned it, is 0-10 against the Celtics since his tense departure, while shooting 42% on field goals and just 29% from three-point range. Did you mention he's 0-10 against the Celtics? I don't think you did.
I'm almost positive.
No,
I didn't. It was on VSiN earlier this week, but I'm pretty
okay.
sure
Well, that's great. Well, this is a different show which does air on VSiN. I just feel like I've got to be the analyst sometimes. Steve doesn't know. Steve does not know what he's talking about right now. So
okay.
That's got to give you some confidence here. We know Luka's probably the best player in the series right now, but just, Irving having struggled against his former team in the last 10 meetings, hasn't beat him once. It's got to give you some confidence here, being a big Celtics bettor, does it not?
I mean, it doesn't hurt. I don't think it's been a different team. Like, this Dallas team is a different team than it's been, and a lot of those numbers go back to the Nets as well for Kyrie, which obviously wasn't a situation that was working.
No, you couldn't even play home games there for a while.
There's only so much stock that you can put in this, but the most recent game is the closest thing you can use to comp this series. It was March 1st in Boston. It was a close game in the fourth quarter, and the Celtics won by 28. Celtics played their full starting five. Dallas played Luka and Kyrie with Daniel Gafford and P.J. Washington in the rotation. Gafford didn't play much. P.J. Washington played well and had 17 points.
God, he's going to have Drew Holiday and Derek White just hounding him all game.
Celtics have bodies to throw at Kyrie. They have bodies to throw at Luka.
Yeah.
And again, like I said yesterday, the one thing that Minnesota didn't do is make Luka play defense and tire him out so he can't do what he wants to do on offense. The Celtics will do that. There's nowhere that you can hide him on the defensive side of the floor. So Kyrie, this isn't going to be a sweep, so Kyrie's going to win his first game against the Celtics like that. He's going to get over that hump. The storyline I'm interested to see is if he's coming off as much more mature, and he's 1 for 1.
Yep.
Because Ernie Johnson in the post-game celebration
Yep.
said, hey, I don't know if you noticed, but Boston's the next team coming up here. He deflected that question. He seems more mature now. We'll see if that carries over, or if he acts like he did 2 years ago in the 2022 postseason when he was flipping fans the bird and
doing the cry thing, right?
Fans were throwing things at Kyrie. Kyrie's doing the crybaby stuff. There was a lot there.
Yeah, don't throw anything at him.
I agree.
Celtics
Let's
fans.
keep it fun here in Boston.
Jules and I will be there together at his
I'll be
typical
there.
season seats.
You'll be outside the stadium. So yeah, that's how I feel about Kyrie.
All right, Porzingis.
You can buy a shirt that probably says very nice words about Kyrie.
Oh, they are out there already. As someone who walks his dogs quite a bit by TD Garden.
Great.
Porzingis is going to make his return in Game 1. That is what the reports. That's what the reports are suggesting.
I think
that's
likely 100% true.
That
we don't have confirmation, but yeah.
Okay, but reports are suggesting that right now. Either way, he is expected to return in this series at some point. We did not see him in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics did not need him in the Eastern Conference Finals. That was clear with the sweep. But Jules, what impact does his return make on this series as a whole? And I see he's already on your betting card.
Huge impact. He stretches the floor. We saw Al Horford in some of those games against the Pacers. I think he shot 6 or 7 of 13 from downtown in one of the games. That's great. You're not going to beat the Celtics if they do that. But Porzingis is better. He played 20. He had 29 points, I think it was, against the Mavericks in that regular season game that he played. He went 4 of 8 from downtown. He's going to help you stretch the floor, pulling a Derek Lively away from the rim. That's huge. And then the trickle-down effect. There are no more Luke Cornett minutes, O'Shea Brissett minutes. The backup center becomes Al Horford. Playing with the backup. It just keeps everything tighter, keeps all those units stronger. And I think Porzingis matches up really well. I just mentioned his numbers against Dallas. So 15.4 points per game, as you saw on the screen there. His over-under for average points per game in the series. This guy averaged over 20 a game in the regular season. He's played really well against Dallas, and he matches up well in terms of, again, pulling him away from the rim, getting a lot of three-point attempts. So I think that it's going to be 5.5 weeks since Porzingis played when we get to Game 1. I think he's going to be 100% healthy. He fully participated in practice yesterday.
Okay.
He's probably going to fully participate in a ramped-up practice today. He's going to be playing full court, 5-on-5. They're getting him ready to be a full go. That was the luxury the Celtics had, to sit him this long and not be forced to bring him back, for like a game 6 against the Knicks or something like that. They didn't have to do that. I think he's going to be 100%. And if that's the case in this matchup, 15.4 points per game is way too low.
Yeah, there is Jesse Morse, who's this very famous doctor on Twitter who tends to chime in a lot on player injuries, says, yeah, he would be really surprised if Porzingis did not return in game 1, but him being 100% is unlikely. But really, it's one of those things where
trust me, not
who's 100% at this stage of the game? I'm not 100%, neither are you. Steve is definitely not here. You're definitely going under 3s for Sam Hauser, but over on his beer shotguns.
Per reports, our friend Jay King said Sam Hauser shotgunned more than 1 beer in the locker room after the Celtics swept the Pacers. Sam Hauser made 1 3-pointer in the conference finals.
Oh, man. The one game I did go to you with during the playoffs, I think we were both on
14-point favorites. Celtics lost by double digits. I'm never bringing you again.
Okay. Talk to me about how many games you expect the Celtics then to win this series by.
Yeah, I think if they get it done, I think it's not going 7. If Dallas is good enough to stretch this to 7, and how good they've been on the road and how high the pressure would be here in Boston, not a great situation. So, again, this is 2 of the best road teams in the NBA. The Celtics specifically, the best road team in the NBA. They're undefeated in the postseason on the road. If they can protect home court early in this series, they're going to get one in Dallas. I think the Celtics can win this in 5 or 6, so I'm going to lay the game and a half at even money. Celtics minus a game and a half. I think they get it done in 5 or 6. And the other way to go about it, I think game 1 sets up a strong spot. Again, 10 days off, sure. Is there going to be rust? Maybe, but you're getting Porzingis back, and the Celtics have dealt well with these playoffs in the postseason. Game 1 of the first round, a week off in between games, Sunday to a Sunday.
Okay.
Then the next 2 rounds, 6 days and 6 days. Closed out on a Wednesday, started the next series on a Tuesday both times. They went 3-0 in those game 1s. I think they're going to win that game 1, and if you play game 1 series minus 130 on the double result, if they're up 1-0, now you're looking at like a minus 300 series price, and you get minus 130 in your back pocket.
I think the rest versus rust conversation can be really silly at times because these dudes are professionals. They're the best at what they do. They're on this final stage for a reason. They're going to be able to continue to play basketball. That's what they do professionally. Breaking news. Game 1, Celtics are 6.5-point favorites at home here. Do you have any early game 1 bets right now that you like? Total sitting at 214.5, and Celtics are minus 230 on the money line here on DK Sportsbook.
Yeah, so for game 1, obviously that the double result plays into that. I think the Celtics do get game 1 at home, but 2 other angles that I'm looking at. One that I've been attacking for a couple of years, if you follow my plays, Celtics first half team total over. I believe it's 57.5 at even money. They're the best first half home scoring team in the NBA over the last couple of years. Generally get into the low to mid 60s. They put up a bunch of points on Dallas earlier in the year. I think the pace early should be up. So I will play that Celtics first half team total over. I like the way they match up with Dallas. They hit it again. We're talking the rust versus rest. Celtics went over their first half team total at home in all 3 of the game 1s so far in this postseason. Other one that I'll look at, Jaylen Brown first quarter points. Both Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, I was playing their first quarter points at times, depending on the rotation, since Porzingis went down. Their numbers are now down because Porzingis is expected back. So Tatum's down to 6.5, Brown 5.5 for first quarter points. I think if they go back to the normal rotation with Porzingis back, Brown should get more first quarter minutes than Tatum, and his prop set at 5.5. He generally comes out pretty aggressive at home in a lot of these games so far this postseason. Last couple of home games, he's gone well over. So I'm going to take Jaylen Brown over 5.5 first quarter points.
And just one stat, too, that also stands out to me is how many threes the Celtics take. So they led the league all season, 3-pointers taken and made. And when they've hit 14 or more in a game this spring here, Jules, they are 9-0. So these guys are just going to continue to fire from deep because they know how key it is to their success.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most talented team, and if their threes are going down, then that's what makes them close to impossible to beat when they're making that many threes. So the way that you beat the Celtics is the threes don't go down and they become beatable. But again, getting Porzingis back to stretch the floor along with those other 4 starters and then Al Horford moving to the bench, it makes it pretty difficult, especially when you have all those bodies to throw at Luka and Kyrie.
Just don't bet Sam Hauser threes. That's the only thing.
Sam Hauser should be losing some rotation minutes with Porzingis coming back.
All right.
Who knows? He probably has a good series.
I'll take the under. Yeah, seriously, now that we've completely hammered him like he does beers in the locker room. All right, let's take a break here. Jules just helped us with some props for the NBA Finals. Steve will do the same for today's MLB slate. Stick around. The Sweat returns in 240 seconds. All right, time to speak. Time to Time to talk about some Major League Baseball props on the second day of June in the year 2024.
Correct.
Steve Buchanan has returned. We're going to rip through some fun bets here. And first on your card, it looks like you are targeting a Kansas City Royals pitcher. All right, this is a pitcher that they acquired after they shipped off Mr. Chapman a year ago. It was June last year. And right now, this guy who you're taking under 5.5 strikeouts on is third in the American League in strikeouts.
Yeah.
So talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal for the Royals and really kind of sparked this team to, where they are today. I'm a big backer of them to win the division, have that nice 14-1 ticket. I think they're 2-1 as of today. So nice to watch the show and get that information.
Yeah.
But Cole Reagan's to go under 5.5 strikeouts here. I like that play a lot going against the San Diego Padres. Now, to be fair, this is not a number that he goes under a lot, like you just alluded to. Like, he has a ton of strikeouts here. It's only happened 4 times in the 12 starts that he's made. That being said, the Padres are one of the toughest teams in the league to strike out, especially when they're facing a left-handed pitcher. They have the second lowest K rate in the league against left-handed pitching. When you look at some of the teams that Reagan has already faced so far this year, of those 4 starts that he's made, 2 of those other teams are also teams who have a similar K rate against lefties. That's the Blue Jays and the Astros, 2 other teams that are extremely tough to strike out. Reagan's went under 5.5 in those 2 starts as well. So I think this is an opportunity to go under on Cole Reagan's here. It's going to be a tough one to watch because he has some seller stuff there going against a team that can hit. But I think we're going to get under 5.5 strikeouts here in this game.
Interesting. You're a big under strikeouts guy today because I'm looking at Washington's Jake Irvin here. And this is a guy I'm interested to hear why you're going under because he's coming off a career night against the Braves as well. So he kept the Nats in that game a few days ago, a handful of days ago. 6 shutout innings, a career high 10 strikeouts here, and a dominant performance against one of the more potent offenses in the league, even without Ronald Acuna Jr.
So I think this is one of those instances where, you look at that past performance and go, well, how did this guy go under 3.5? Because it's such an obscure number. But you also have to take into account, okay, this guy's coming off a game where he had 10 strikeouts and now his total is set at 3.5 for this game. Because Jake Irvin is not a strikeout pitcher. That was such an anomaly that he had in that game against the Braves that this number is still where it's at here. This is somebody who strikeouts way under a batter per inning. He's having around the 7s strikeouts per 9 inning on the year. But now, like the Padres, the Cleveland Guardians have been one of the hardest teams to strike out when they're facing a right-handed pitcher. They come in today with a strikeout rate of 19% against righties. That is tied for the second lowest in the league with Kansas City Royals, who we just talked about just a moment ago. When you look at Jake Irvin's numbers and what his pitches are, he throws a fastball and a curveball. The Guardians have no higher than a 20% K rate against both of those pitches. So those are the 2 out pitches that Irvin throws here. If those are the ones he's trying to get the strikeouts with, those are not pitches that the Guardians usually strike out against to begin with here. And like I mentioned, he's not a big strikeout guy to begin with. He induces a lot of contact. So, you look at that 10 that he had against the Braves, you go, why is this number as it is? There's a reason that there's a number that is as low as it is going against a team that doesn't strike out to begin with. Irvin's not a strikeout guy in that sense anyway. So I know it feels like a weird number, but I still like under 3.5 here today.
Trying to help the Nationals avoid the sweep, which they rarely get swept here. They've been swept in just one of their last 9 series. Now, the Red Sox, which we do a podcast since 1901, a Boston baseball podcast.
Recording one in like an hour or so.
We are, after we have an in-depth meeting with Rigia, our manager, afterwards. I'm excited for that. But Dom Smith, you are targeting here. This guy was signed by the Sox a month ago, Steve. He was batting 3rd in the Red Sox lineup yesterday, which kind of tells you everything you need to know about the lineup the Red Sox are pushing out there every day. And he's really only here because Tristan Casas is not.
Yeah, I mean, this is somebody who's hitting third in the lineup and is hitting under 200. So that just says
wow.
everything you
Vomit.
need to know here about Dominic Smith. But like taking him to go under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs here, getting that at plus 120. Going up against Casey Mize here from the Detroit Tigers, he has been stellar against lefties really throughout his career, but particularly this year as well. Coming into this game, has a 260 WOBA against left-handed bats here, so that's been a very good number here. You look at Dominic Smith, like I mentioned, obviously when you're hitting under 200, you're not hitting a lot of overs here, but 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, he's only gone over this in 8 of the 26 games that he's played in, and there's a plethora of ways that you can cash this bet. A couple of hits that you'll cash it, any combination of those 3 stats that goes over, you cash that as well, and he was only able to go over in 8 of the 26 games that he's played. Like I mentioned, he's not really hitting well as well. 198 on the year, just a 258 WOBA on the year as well. So this feels like a strong spot, getting plus money here to go under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBI. Casey Mize, when he's going against lefties, that's been something he's been very strong with all throughout his career, and particularly this year. Give me the under on that play here.
I mean, in Boston's defense, at least they're not on this 64-win pace after Memorial Day like the Mets are here, which the Mets, Steve, I think could end up going the fire sale route here pretty soon.
Without a doubt.
And including Pete Alonso, who is being rumored as one of those targets. And he's entering free agency at the end of this year,
Right.
Steve. And he's having another all-star caliber season, which, you know, he would fetch a decent prospect in return
He
from
absolutely
a
would.
contender here. So right now, why are you targeting him today?
Yeah, so I was surprised to see his line for 1.5 bases for the over at plus 145. I mean, this is a number that he's been clearing all throughout the year. If you look at how many games he's gone over 1.5 bases, he's cleared that in nearly half of the games that he's played on the season, 27 of the 57 games that he's played. So to get this at plus 145, I was really surprised about. He's going up against Brandon Pfaadt, who has been a good pitcher for the Diamondbacks here. He's been much better than advertised, 4.16 ERA on the year, but his expected ERA sits at 2.88. Nonetheless, he's somebody that throws a ton of fastballs, and that is a pitch that Pete Alonso not only crushes, but he's been handling all throughout the year. Has a 404 WOBA against that pitch here, thrown by right-handed pitching. This should be a good spot for Pete Alonso. It's not often, I feel like, that you get such big plus money for him to go over 1.5 bases, especially with the power that he has, especially as of late as well. But yeah, he's going to be someone, I think, when the trade deadline gets closer, he's going to be one of the most highly sought-after guys. And the Mets just need an absolute retooling at this point. Like they had the fire sale last year with Scherzer and Verlander.
Another one's probably
That's
coming.
going to come in again this year as well. I mean, this team is going nowhere fast. And with him being a free agent, he's definitely I think he's going to be moved even before the deadline hits.
Goodbye, homegrown all-star. Hello, rebuild, which we know quite a bit about here in Boston. Pirate, under 3.5 runs, Steve. How much does this have to do with who they're going up against today? Toronto's Chris Bassett, who's trying to keep a streak of 2 games without surrendering an earned run intact.
Well, that's true, but do you know who those 2 games were against?
All right, tell me.
Chicago White Sox.
I was going to guess that. All right, I didn't say it, but I win.
Is it really like a strong scoreless streak?
No,
when you're
and the
going
White Sox
against
are going to be here in town, I think, like this week, coming up.
A 4-game series, like an absolute snooze fest. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, he is on a streak of 12 scoreless innings, but against the Chicago White Sox, who as a team are in danger of hitting under 200 as a team. So that says everything you need to know about the White Sox. Nonetheless, you have the Pirates coming in here today, or in Toronto, going up against the Blue Jays, and they are not a good team or not a strong team offensively against sinkers, and that is the main pitch that Chris Bassett is throwing there. Today's expected lineup for the Pirates has a combined 276 WOBA against that pitch. The bottom 4 of that lineup has a WOBA of under 200. It has been putrid against that pitch here. Bassett, the real issue for him is when he's going up against lefties. There aren't a lot of lefties in this lineup. You're going to have, obviously, Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Bay, and then maybe Rowdy Tellez at first base. Of those guys there, only Reynolds and Cruz do well against sinkers. So there's not a lot of bats that you can rely upon to go up against Chris Bassett, especially from the left side, to hit this sinker ball. He has been very, very good against righties, and that is what the main split is, or I should say handiness from this Pirates lineup. So this feels like a spot where, you know, maybe he doesn't continue that scoreless streak because it's not against the White Sox, but this is not a pitch that the Pirates can handle well at all. 3.5 runs feels pretty lofty when you consider all the things I said here. So give me the under on their team total here today.
Been an underwhelming offense there in the Steel City.
Without a doubt.
22nd ranked offense in baseball, scoring just a tick over 4 runs per game. And then you're going Rangers over 4.5 runs here, which Bruce Bochy was talking the other day about this offense needing to make a change. They needed more confidence. They showed it yesterday.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I actually don't mind the money line here as well. They're only minus 130 against Trevor Rogers, who's really struggling against both sides of the plate here. 361 WOBA against lefties, 385 WOBA against righties here. Rangers do well against all the pitches that he's throwing, with the exception of being the slider, and that's about the second pitch that Rogers throws here. But four-seamer, sinker, changeup, those are the other pitches that he throws. The Rangers have a combined WOBA of 365 against all 3 of those pitches here. So I expect that Rangers lineup to be humming along here today against the Marlins.
Time to reward our 11 minutes of hard work with about 15, 16 minutes or so of rest. Jules will take over. He'll talk with Joe Osborne more about the NBA Finals next.
Welcome back to The Sweat. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning here with us on DraftKings Network on VSiN. We're going to dive into a little more NBA Finals, and I obviously have been dishing out Celtics angles left and right on the show, and we can't have that. I'm going to be neutral here. We got to bring in other perspectives. So for the occasion, my buddy Joe Osborne over at Covers is going to join the show and perhaps make a little argument for the Mavericks here. Joe, how we doing?
I'm good. I was up late last night watching the UFC. Hit a plus 640 parlay, though, so feeling pretty good here this morning. How are you?
All right. Well, you got a bankroll built for the finals then.
Yeah.
Your hat says football, but we're going to talk basketball.
Can't wait.
Let's start with just the series overall, because
yes,
I think and this doesn't mean the Celtics are going to win, but I just think if the Celtics can't break through this year, they're not going to break through. They probably should have beat the Warriors when they were up 2-1, leading in the fourth quarter to go up 3-1. They lose 3 games in a row in that series. They start an Eastern Conference Finals where they're like a minus 1,000 favorite by going down 3-0 to the Heat. Then almost complete the comeback, can't do it in Game 7. Now they go through a soft Eastern Conference. They get 10 days off, and they got, their former teammate Kyrie Irving on the other side. If now's not the time to break through, this team's not going to do it. I'm confident they're going to do it. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I just see a lot of red flags here for the Boston Celtics. There's a lot going on here, guys. This is the easiest path to the NBA Finals ever, probably. If I'm wrong, fill me in, because the teams they've been playing, the Clippers, who the Mavs beat in the first round, they're probably better than every team that the Celtics have faced. I mean, you can debate the Pacers with Halliburton in the lineup, but just the amount of teams they've been playing with superstars have been out. They got that going on, an insane amount of time off here. That's something the NBA should revisit. We can discuss that at another point. And then they're trying to reintegrate Porzingis back into the lineup here too. So I think they got an absolute ton going on here. You have Luka on the other side. Everyone's so quick to want to point out this guy's the next Michael Jordan. This guy's the next Kobe Bryant. How's that going with Anthony Edwards? No one says this about Luka. This guy's out there absolutely foaming at the mouth out there in the Timberwolves series. The Celtics don't have that on their side. And speaking of Porzingis, people are talking about this guy like it's Bill Russell in his prime returning to join the Celtics. He's a good player. He's not a great player. Absolutely, he's going to help with depth, but I do think that's a little bit overrated. And I think the Mavs have the best guy in the court in Luka, and the underdog price on them is very attractive too.
Let me just quickly get your take on this. Mavericks on DK Sportsbook plus 175 to win the series. Luka plus 205 to win MVP. If I like the Mavericks, I'm just taking that extra 30 cents and betting Luka. If there's no way Dallas can win the series if Luka is not the best player on the floor.
Well, there you have it. I mean, and that's the common strategy when you're betting on the Super Bowl too. Okay, if you like the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl, you should just take Mahomes to win MVP because you're going to get a better price. So that same strategy absolutely applies to this. And yeah, the Mavs aren't winning this series unless Luka's the best player on the court. So yeah, that's a very smart strategy if you do like Dallas.
Let's stick with some series props here, Joe, before we talk about Game 1. We're talking Luka, so let's go Luka. Doncic to lead the series in three-pointers. Celtics take a lot of them, have a couple of different guys, a few different guys that could get hot and lead, but Luka, just the most sure thing for volume, right?
Oh, I love this. It's even money. And considering he's minus 205 to lead the series in points and the volume of three-pointers that he throws up, I think that's an excellent price on this bet. So look at him in the playoffs so far. He leads all players in three-pointers made. He leads all players in this series in three-point attempts per game, about 1.5 more than Derek White. And yeah, he's here for this moment, man. This is his spot. I think he's going to come out firing. The volume, you're going to see a lot of double-digit three-point attempt games from Luka in this series. And even money, you can't go wrong with that bet.
Yeah, I like that at even money. Again, you can bet this throughout the series too. So as things change, if there's another guy that you think could be in Luka's way, you can come around, grab a piece of another guy. Let's go to a head-to-head. series points prop. You are on a Celtics angle here. Jaylen Brown versus Kyrie Irving is available. Kyrie's been, he'll show up and have 4 points at halftime and end a game with 30. He's been kind of, I don't want to say hit or miss, because it's really just him picking his spots, it seems like, when to be aggressive and when to just let Luka cook. First quarter of Game 5 against Minnesota, good time to let Luka go. He outscored the Timberwolves by himself with 20 points, but then he came back later in that game, had a terrific second half. You see maybe a little bit more consistency from Jaylen Brown. Is that the angle here?
It's a big part of the angle and the price as well. I thought Jaylen Brown would have been favored over Kyrie to average more points per game in the series, but that's not the case. Jaylen Brown plus 120 to have more points in this series than Kyrie Irving. You take a look at the playoffs so far. He's averaging around 2 more points per game in these playoffs. Kyrie's been very inconsistent. If you look at his game logs here in the playoffs, a few games where he's had over 30, also a few games where he's had fewer than 15 points. And I think Brown has been the Celtics. He has been their most efficient scorer in the series or in the playoffs so far. He's only averaging 1 point fewer than Jason Tatum, but he's shooting it around 10% better from the field, around 8% better from 3-point land. So, yeah, I think they're going to be leaning on Brown quite a bit, obviously. Not going out on a limb with saying that. And plus 120, you can't go wrong with that.
All right, let's focus, Joe, specifically more on Game 1 now.
Yes.
A trend that I am going to play, so we're going to go against each other a little bit here. I am going to play the Celtics first half team total over. It's even money at 57.5. They're a team that, has played with pace and scored in the mid to low 60s at home all season, and really going back to last season. And with the layoffs, they've had at least 6 days in between each Game 1 this postseason. They haven't shown the rust. They've come out and gone over their first half team total at home in the Game 1s all 3 times. They have slowed in the second half a couple of times. And I think we're going to see some pace and some threes getting up against Dallas. You're on the first quarter under here. I have to assume this comes with the as a part of the layoff that we opened up discussing.
Yeah, I think there's a possibility these teams could be totally out of rhythm to open this game. I think there could be a bit of a feeling out process. I'd be surprised to see them zipping up and down the court, nailing 3-pointers. And even if you look at the pattern for the Mavericks here in the playoffs so far, they haven't been good in the first quarter to open a series yet. I think 2 of the 3 games, they had 24 points or less. So, yeah, I do think there's going to be a bit of a feeling out process, even with the Celtics reintegrating Porzingis into the lineup. There's a lot going on there. This is the longest break each of these teams have had all season. So, yeah, I do think that there's potential they could be out of rhythm, and I do think that's a fair number there on the 55.5.
That is a good point. So this is longer breaks for both teams than the All-Star break itself, just going into another series, which is wild. Kristaps Porzingis. It sounds like he's going to play Game 1. Props are available for Game 1. This is exactly what the Celtics wanted, really, is to not need Kristaps Porzingis to win the East. There was never even a thought or a game where you said, maybe they should bring him back now. They were fine without him, and now got him this extra rest, knowing the layoff was coming. For those reasons, I'm expecting Kristaps Porzingis to be pretty healthy here. If he had to come back and force like a Game 5 or a Game 6 against the Pacers or something to stay alive, maybe I would feel a little differently. But the Celtics are having a chance to kind of ramp him up their own way. He's going to be playing a lot of full court 5-on-5 this week, apparently. So 15.5 for Game 1. I'll tell you, earlier in the show, I pumped up his series over 15.4 points per game average, just because I like the matchup against Dallas. You pull guys like Lively and Gafford away from the rim. I think he's going to be taking a lot of threes. Maybe threes is the better angle. But specifically, the knock the rust game off is going to be Game 1, set at 15.5 points. You like the under on that?
Yeah, and that's it. So a lot of question marks around Porzingis. Last we heard in the news, he was limited at practice on Friday. So we have no idea how many minutes this guy is going to play in Game 1. I think it would be shocking to see him play his full allotment of minutes, even getting into the 30 points. And then there's a potential for some rust here, too. He's been off for a very long time. I got no doubt that he's going to be healthy as we get deeper into the series, and he's probably going to be effective. too, although I do think he is a little overrated. But yeah, 15.5, I do think that is too high, just based on the point that I don't think he's going to get his full allotment of minutes here. So yeah, I'll be fading Porzingis here on Thursday night.
All right, Joe, we got 90 seconds left. You mentioned off the top, you hit a nice fat UFC parlay last night.
Yes.
I can't tell you the first thing about UFC, but I'm going to ask you one question here because I have placed a bet. I have taken an angle, a betting angle for the UFC that I like. We've seen the Conor McGregor videos floating around Twitter.
Yes.
I can't bet on that, dude. This guy's going to be focused and come in. We got a pick 'em type of fight against Chandler. I don't know the first thing about Chandler. I bet Chandler. Are you with me?
Yeah, Chandler's a smart bet. What we have here is we have a full-time professional athlete in Michael Chandler taking on a guy in Conor McGregor who's been off for 3 years, coming off a major injury. Even before that fight 3 years ago, he's been very much in and out of the sport. So you have a full-time professional, high-caliber athlete, and Michael Chandler has been competing against the best versus a part-timer in Conor McGregor, who has a lot of question marks and a lot of red flags. So yeah, the value absolutely on Michael Chandler. I'll be at the fight in Las Vegas here at the end of the month, and I cannot wait for it.
There you go, baby. All right, we are aligned on a UFC pick to end our NBA Finals segment. Joe Osborne, thank you so much for joining us here on The Sweat. We will be right back with the rest of the crew on the other side of the break.
Well, the Panthers have done it again, clinching a return trip to the Stanley Cup final. Florida beating the Rangers 2-1 in Game 6 last night, coming away victorious in the Eastern Conference final. The team that we'll be playing could possibly be decided tonight. Let's grab some hockey bets from Jeff Ulrich of DraftKings Network. Right meow. How you doing this morning, Big Cat?
Doing pretty good, man. Yeah, the Panthers game, a little bit tighter than I thought it would be, but Panthers got it done.
Yeah.
Kudos to them. I think they deserved it, and obviously a massive game tonight with Dallas and Edmonton.
Yeah, so just going back to last night real quick here, Jeff. Panthers become the first team to advance to the Stanley Cup final in consecutive seasons since the Penguins accomplished that feat back in 2009 here, dude. First question about last night. How were they able to book a ticket to the sport's biggest stage once again? What went right for them?
I mean, I think everything we talked about yesterday, they came out, they outshot the Rangers again. They held the Rangers, to limited scoring chances, which they've been doing all series. The Panthers are just really good at doing that. They're really good at dominating the play, especially 5-on-5. You look at high danger scoring chances, just scoring chances in general in that series. Florida dominated. The Rangers were doing it with Shesterkin stopping a high number of shots every night, and then getting some special teams work and just some timely goals. And that kind of stuff just doesn't last that long. The Rangers have kind of been relying on it all series. The Panthers got some timely goals. Sam Bennett has really stepped up for them that last series. Stepped up for them again in Game 6. I think that the Panthers are kind of firing on all cylinders right now. They're pretty much healthy. Bobrovsky's playing good. They're going to be a tough matchup for whoever wins tonight.
Yeah, Jeff.
Whoever wins the Western Conference.
Yeah, no, I got you. I mean, the Rangers were a good team all year, Jeff. They were a very good team through the first two rounds of the playoffs. To me, watching that game last night and watching the series, I think what it came down to, in my opinion, was they couldn't quite sustain it and match that physicality against a bigger, stronger, more physical team.
Yeah, absolutely. The Rangers' Achilles heel has always just been, they can continue the flow of play like 5-on-5. They don't have as much puck possession as some of the other top teams, and they've gotten by with it though this year. I mean, they had an incredible year. Shesterkin obviously is big, having him in net, but guys like Panarin, their power play was top 5. They had great special teams. Guys like Chris Kreider coming through with shorthanded goals. But you're right. Like 5-on-5, when it comes down to it, a team like Florida, they just couldn't hang with them. I was so impressed with the Rangers getting by Carolina, because I really thought what happened in the Florida series would happen in Carolina. And we saw some of that towards the end of the Carolina series, but the Rangers hung in there and took the Hurricanes out. So I don't know. The Rangers need a little bit more of that grit, like a little bit more of that action 5-on-5. They're not quite as deep. I'm not really sure what you change on the Rangers necessarily. You've got some of the tools there, but I do think a guy like Lafreniere coming up, this was a real breakout for him in the playoffs. I think he'll be a bigger part of it. We'll see if the Rangers make any more changes next year. Certainly they could add some depth scoring, because it's going to be really hard for them to match up with Florida and Carolina again next year.
Which potential Stanley Cup final matchup for the Panthers suits them best? The Oilers or the Stars here, Jeff? So we have potential series props right now available on the DK Sportsbook. Panthers would be a -130 series favorite against your Oilers. Not as big of a favorite against potentially a matchup versus the Stars. They'd be -115 in that series against Dallas.
It's funny, and I'm a little surprised at that right now. I think that the Oilers have a better chance of knocking off Florida. That's not a bias. I just think that they match up better. Edmonton's speed is going to give the Panthers real problems 5-on-5. Edmonton is just almost as good a 5-on-5 team as the Panthers, if not better. They're extremely good on the penalty kill as well. They're not going to give Florida a ton of power play goals, a big edge in that perspective either. And if you're asking like which team can get to Sergei Bobrovsky, I mean, Connor McDavid in an up and down series where it's a lot against the rush. I mean, you've got guys like Draisaitl and McDavid who can just take over games. So I'm a little bit surprised. I think Dallas is kind of going to be another sort of Rangers, and I'm not suggesting that Dallas can't beat the Panthers either. They've got good special teams, and they could potentially get hot for 6 or 7 games. So I think both matchups are going to be tough, and I do think Florida deserves to be favored, but I'm a little surprised that the Oilers are the bigger underdogs here. I mean, at this point, if they get like 4 or 5 good games from Stuart Skinner, I absolutely think they can take the Panthers to the limit. So
All right. Well, I must say, you seem awfully cool, calm, and collected this morning for your team being one win away from its first Stanley Cup final appearance since the 2005-2006 season here, Jeff. So your heart, I know, is leaning towards Edmonton to close this thing out tonight. What is your brain telling you, though?
My brain isn't going to be a part of the equation tonight, Emerson. Unfortunately, we're just going to go with the Oilers.
There he is.
I really do think this is the spot at home. And it's not like even just looking at the stats and stuff like that. I mean, the Oilers have dominated play in this series. It hasn't been quite as one-sided as it was like with Florida and the Rangers, but they're creating more scoring chances. They've got the power play going now. Stuart Skinner is basically matching Jake Ottinger over the last couple games, which is really scary for Dallas Stars fans because if their edge of net is gone, it's hard to see where the Stars really have the huge edge in this series. So, the Oilers are minus 142 on the money line. Absolutely. I think that's fair. We've seen this price kind of all series. It's not really jacked up or anything like that over previous games. I'm of the opinion, again, in these elimination games, it's okay to go regulation line or even to the puck line plus 185 because of the potential for empty net goals. The Rangers kept getting late goals in that Florida Rangers series to kind of screw the puck line bets, but certainly that was just a little bit of bad luck in my opinion. I think that the puck line is playable here for Edmonton at plus 185, but certainly I'm looking to the Oilers to close this out. They've been the better team this almost the entire series. They certainly were the better team in the last game, and now they're at home with the chance to go to the Stanley Cup final. Don't see how that doesn't happen. I think you got to bet the Oilers here.
And I'm on your team. I'm as oiled up as you are, Jeff Ulrich. But what makes me nervous is how good Dallas has been on the road, not only in the regular season, but I'm talking in the postseason here. 6-2 in the playoffs. They've also shown resiliency by overcoming that 2-0 series deficit against Vegas in the first round. So I think there are a lot of people out there who still have hope of the Stars rebounding in Game 6, despite their recent underwhelming play here.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I mean, I'm not trying to write the Stars off completely or anything like that. They've got a great power play. And as you mentioned, like this has been one of the most resilient teams all postseason, right? Coming back from 2-0 against, the Vegas Golden Knights was impressive. Certainly the road record stands out. But at the same time, like if you're always putting yourself in this position and you're always relying for a big win on the road, eventually that's going to come back to get you. You can't win every game on the road. You can't win every elimination game on the road. You can't win when your back's against the wall every time. And I think that's kind of been the story with Dallas at this point. Like, how long can this last? And it was kind of the same story with the Rangers. Can they keep just coming out here when they shouldn't be winning games? So I look at Dallas. They've been resilient. They're certainly not a team to mess with. And I look at this series as a little bit closer than the other one. So I'll be less surprised if Dallas wins and we go to Game 7. But I still think Edmonton is a superior team here. They've been the superior team most of the series. And like I said, that's just where I'm leaning for Game 6.
And there have been 5 or fewer goals scored in 3 of the first 5 games in this series, Jeff. Do you expect that trend to continue tonight as the total set at 5.5?
Yeah, the totals come down. Obviously, we had some games in this series where the total got up to 6. And, in Edmonton, the one thing I'd say about the total tonight, too, is in Edmonton, like we've seen the game go over in both games. So now that the over is set at minus 105 between these two teams, it's pretty tempting. I'm going to stay off the total here, but again, I would lean towards the over. I know it's an elimination game and they tend to be really tight, but I just feel like with the game being back in Edmonton, we're just going to see a little bit more of those open rushes like we did in games 3 and Game 4. So lean the over here with the current numbers. I think that if you got on the under early or even got like some kind of 6 total, then that's fine. But again, I don't really want to bet against the Oilers. Bet the Oilers under in Edmonton, just with the trends that they've shown, because they've been extremely strong over team, especially when the games have been in Edmonton.
Jeff, it's no secret. This is your team. They are on their home ice tonight, okay? I need you to channel your inner Herb Brooks here. I'm going to give you the
I'm going to do you one better, pal.
Oh, what do we got?
I'm just going to light a candle.
Oh, we're going to light a candle for us. Yes, let's go, man. I need you to give me your best pregame speech right now for Edmonton. We got less than a minute to go in this segment. The entire team is watching right now. They're up early. They're dialed into the sweat. Let's go. The memorial candle has already been lit.
That's going to stay lit. So if I'm not back next weekend, you know that my house just burned down or something. But look, Connor McDavid's been on ice tear here. He's really excelled in this series. And I'm going to call it right now. Connor McDavid, his shot attempts, he's averaging 9 shot attempts per game. I think he's going to score. So if you're looking for an anytime goal prop, McDavid plus 140. I think Connor McDavid scores a big goal for the Oilers, potentially even multiple goals. He gets the game winner here. Oilers, send them to the Stanley Cup Finals, and we're going to have a great Stanley Cup Finals. Edmonton versus Florida, 2 5-on-5 teams that can skate up and down the ice. It's going to be a good one.
Just don't forget to wear your sunscreen when you're down there in South Florida, Jeff Ulrich. Hang out, though, because this is a hell of a weekend for you. We got the Canadian Open going down. I need some picks from you, maybe some early U.S. Open picks. Anna Bird is dead. All right, everybody. Jeff Ulrich has returned, but we are going to exit the ice. We are going to step foot on the links right now. There is a lot of news that we need to get to and bets we need to get to in the golf world. But, Jeff, I need to remind you and the people at home, and I don't necessarily want to do this because I don't want more competition, but Masters, the Masters ticket lottery is open. So if you love pain like I do, Jeff, you'll be applying for your tickets and preparing to be heard again when you get the rejection email come July. Are you ready to do this? You need to apply today because I know you have not already.
Oh, and I'm someone who just never gets my hopes up, so I've never applied for Masters tickets. But now that you've reminded me, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to get the tickets, and then I'm going to absolutely not take you with me.
Oh, really? So. Who would you take on our team then?
I don't know yet, actually. Maybe my dad. Probably my dad.
Well, he's not on our team.
Aren't you contractually obligated, like if your dad is still alive, to take him to the Masters? I think there's something in the tickets, but I would take you. I'm just kidding. We could go together.
All right, cool. I was worried you were going to say producer Samir there for a minute, but you didn't. Thank you very much. But hey, right north of the border where you are located, we got the Canadian Open cooking right now, Jeff Ulrich. And most of the top of the leaderboard, we talked about it a little bit on the show yesterday. It was a soft top of the leaderboard, okay? And most of those guys all stalled out on moving day. They didn't really move at all on moving day. And the door was open for somebody to step through, though. And that guy is Mr. McIntyre, not to be confused with Mr. McIntosh from Blank Check, who played his last 5 holes, Jeff, at 5 under to get to 14 under now on the week. He carries a 4-shot lead into today's final round. What is your confidence level in him closing this thing out? Or can someone a little further behind on the leaderboard catch him?
I mean, it's all in context, right? Robert McIntyre was like 1 shot behind the lead, like was having a pretty mediocre day until the final 5 holes, and he went 4 under. And it just encapsulates Robert McIntyre as a golfer perfectly, because I think on any given day, McIntyre is capable of coming out and like breaking the course record or shooting 76. And there's a wide variety of outcomes with McIntyre today. He has won events over in the European Tour. He's an extremely talented golfer. He hits it far. He's got great irons. He's got a pretty creative short game, but like the putter can let him down. He can start missing 3-footers. So I just think there's a huge variety of outcomes with him. Wouldn't be shocked either way if he shot like 73, finished like T5, or just won by multiple strokes. So that's kind of what I'm expecting from him today. It's probably going to be a roller coaster round. I'm sure he'll get some birdies, but certainly if things start out slow, it's going to get tight real quick because there are some names behind him. It's not the most star-studded leaderboard, but there are some names who can go low real quick, and they're going to be hunting today for sure.
Okay, so give me some of those names right now. Some guys behind McIntyre who, again, is winless in 44 career PGA Tour starts. So we've seen that a lot with some of these first-time winners this year, Jeff, and there's been a lot of them, especially closer to the start of the season. Some of them collapse, their pipes burst under pressure, but some end up closing this thing out. I know there's Rory McIlroy in there, 7 shots behind. He shot a 61 on this course before, though, Jeff. And I now need you just to tell me why you are going to target Tommy Fleetwood.
Look, I mean, I think when you're looking behind, like the 2 obvious names are Mackenzie Hughes, who's Canadian, and he's 4 shots back in second, and then Fleetwood at plus 1,000, who's 5 shots back, but had an extremely good round yesterday. And it does feel like both these guys have a little bit more to give. I mean, Fleetwood has been solid pretty much from the get-go this week. Like, I think if you're looking around that number, Sam Burns and Fleetwood stick out. I don't necessarily trust Sam Burns enough. He had that one good round, really hasn't looked good the rest of the tournament. I really do think Fleetwood is the guy who, after what he did last year at this event, he's coming in 5 shots back with no expectations. It's kind of hard not to like the spot, even if you're just like not a Tommy Fleetwood hater. And I have no idea how anyone could be a Tommy Fleetwood hater because he's like the nicest guy on earth. But if you are one, even you would have to like the spot because there's no pressure. You've got a guy in McIntyre who Fleetwood has beaten before. He knows extremely well, who's going to be nervous. So why not? I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on Mackenzie Hughes, and the odds are shorter for Hughes. So I would lean Fleetwood between those two guys. I think that everyone else is, if you're going to like 7 shots back, I mean, Tom Kim is there. That's probably the guy I would lean to at plus or -7. He's plus 6,000. So you're getting pretty big odds for a guy, but he is 7 shots back. But Tom Kim has certainly shown us he can go and shoot like a 62, 61. So those are the names that I'd kind of target. Everyone else, I don't have huge expectations for. I'm not super convinced on Rory enough to take a plus 1,800 number with him 7 back. But I think Fleetwood and Hughes kind of got to be the targets here with, if you want to take a real long shot, looking for a guy like Tom Kim, sure. But I think one of either McIntyre is going to hold on or Hughes or Fleetwood is going to catch him. That's kind of my prediction for today.
I gave out Rory yesterday, top 10. That was plus 110 odds. So he's T11 right now. Could really use him to help me look smart.
It was good. It's a good bet. He's minus 200 for a top 10 now. So you get
there we go.
Good value there.
Hashtag analyst Jeff Ulrich. By the way, Fleetwood 7th from tee to green in the field. Just needs to really find that hot putter. I want you to know I've sprinkled a little something on your boy, our boy here. All right. I need to ask you, because the men's U.S. Open's coming up in 2 weeks, but I want to ask you real quick about the U.S. Women's Open that's going on right now. There's Charlie Hull, ripping darts, stealing hearts. She is the female John Daly, but also the demise of world #1, Nelly Korda, is making headlines here. Maybe the second most surprising thing to happen, besides the one player who killed a bird on her tee shot, which happened to be on the same hole that Nelly Korda carded a 10 on a par 3, en route to shooting a 10 over 80 in her opening round. Here's what she said about how difficult this course has become.
Not a lot of positive thoughts, honestly. Honestly, I just didn't play well today. I didn't hit it good. I found myself in the rough a lot, and making a 10 on a par 3 will definitely not do any good at a U.S. Open. So started off really poorly, but played pretty well in the back 9. But overall, just a bad day in the office.
Jeff, it's great. Maybe she should consider being arrested like Scottie Scheffler. That seemed to help him as the world #1. But why has this been so difficult for these ladies? There's only 5 women under par right now entering the final round. This is being described as the massacre at Lancaster, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I read it's like the hardest course that an LPGA event has seen, basically.
Yeah, I think the USGA is even more surprised with how difficult it is. They're like, damn, we may have made this too tough for the ladies.
Yeah, I mean, Nelly Korda sounds like me if you have to interview me after a round of golf. Like, I made a 10 on that par 3. I kind of got it together for a few holes in the back 9. But, I mean, this course has just decimated the ladies, unfortunately. It happens with the USGA. All their courses are on the verge of being lost. And if you get some dry weather, the greens get lost. I think that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, the rough is going to be up because it's a U.S. Open, regardless of which gender we're talking about. But, when the greens get lost, it just the course becomes impossible. And I think especially for the LPGA players, they're really not used to seeing courses this tough. I'm not suggesting that they don't play tough courses or they're not good golfers, so please don't take it there. I'm just suggesting this is probably a bigger dichotomy for them than even the men. The men sometimes will take on Torrey Pines, look at those U.S. Open setups. I don't think that the ladies have as many chances to see as many tough courses. So for me, it's probably just a bigger shock to their system too, right? If we're really getting down to apples and oranges or whatever. But yeah, just completely, they've just lost the course basically. I think when you have the best player in the world, clearly not even just by miles the best player in the world right now, shoot at a 10 on a par 3, you know that you've lost the course. So a little unfortunate, but certainly a wild U.S. Open, like you said. I mean, the lady who hit the bird, man. I mean, I've been waiting for that to happen my entire life watching golf.
What, to watch a bird die on the golf course? You've been waiting for that your whole life?
I mean, at some point, you're going to be like, oh, the golfer made an actual birdie. They hit a bird.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, the DC can make the dad joke.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to see birds. So, even though my dog is extremely good at killing birds, I don't actually want to see the bird die.
No offense to you and anyone else in Canada. Why couldn't it have been a Canadian geese? Those things just poop all over every city and community that they are in.
Canadian geese would have just gotten up and flown away though, because they're really tough and they're mean too. So. Yeah.
They really are. So if they hit an eagle, a bald eagle, or the symbol of America here, you'd be like, oh, she made an eagle. You're terrible, Jeff. We have about
I
40.
probably would have
We
said
have,
that, yes.
we have about 45 seconds to go. Just give me someone near the top of your betting card right now, looking ahead 2 weeks out from the men's U.S. Open.
Right. I mean, look, men's U.S. Open. You have to target Victor Hovland.
Yes.
In my opinion. Even at plus 1,600, I know the numbers shrunk, but man, this guy's got his confidence back from the swing changes. Top 5 at the PGA. I like this setup. It's not a huge tight lies around the greens. There's not a huge tight lies like in terms of rough. I think that's going to benefit a guy like Victor Hovland. Moving down the board a little bit.
Quickly, Jeff.
I mean, this one. It's going to be wide open. We'll see how Fleetwood plays today. I'll say this quickly, too. Keep your eye on Davis Riley if he qualifies for the U.S. Open. That's going to be my long shot pick. He's still got to qualify, but that'd be my long shot.
And it's and Pinehurst is a Donald Ross design. Same. Pinehurst, Donald Ross design. He's very good. Hovland's very good on those designs. Thank you, Jeff. We got the cool down coming up next, and how physical ladies are getting with Caitlin Clark. All right, folks, back here on the Sweat. We're now going to hit the cool down, final block of the show. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on DK Network and VSiN. Again, we bring you the show every Saturday and Sunday morning, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Appreciate you hanging out with us, putting up with us. Yesterday, gentlemen, we talked a little bit about the Fever and the Sky, and you had Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark facing each other for the first time on an WNBA court Saturday. And so the Indiana Fever winning, Jules, their second game of the season. They're now 2-8. So that was a 71
Sky money line.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring it up, but I'm glad you were a man and decided to do that. So it was an entertaining game for many, many reasons here, Jules. Did you happen to catch any of the highlights to it?
Caught the game.
Caught the game, as did I, my friend. As did I.
The majority of it.
What did you think about the physicality is what everyone is really talking about right now, because it was Kennedy Carter, and she was, after the game, refusing to answer questions after what looked like a cheap shot against Caitlin Clark. But if you saw that clip in an extended form, you could see Clark was chirping her a little bit throughout that game. But then you have the Fever's coach after the game saying, this has got to stop. There's been so many hard fouls on Caitlin Clark. I think jealousy is a true factor here, and she is being targeted by some of these, Diana Taurasi warned her, these grown women around the WNBA. What do you think about her being targeted nonstop here?
I get it. The irony of it is that Caitlin Clark arguably is saving the WNBA with her brand name and likeness, and rather than be appreciative of that, some of the other players at least, are obviously coming at her hard, and then in this case, refusing to answer questions after the game. So it's a little ironic, but I get it from both sides. Like, people are still going to watch. She's going to help give the league publicity, but if you're in the league, you're a little pissed off that somebody who's never played a game comes in and gets all this respect, and you're going to go a little harder against her. So I get it from both sides.
Okay. And then today, Caitlin Clark, back-to-back games. She's heading to the concrete jungle. That's New York City, Steve. And so, do you have any bets today as New York and that Indiana matchup? You got Breanna Stewart and the Liberty facing off against Indiana. I think there's going to be more trouble for Caitlin Clark and company.
Yeah, I'm probably laying off today. It's a great spot in theory to fade the Fever, who are coming off their second win of the season, a grinder, a 1-point home win. Now you're on a back-to-back going on the road. Rare in the WNBA, 40 games to get these back-to-backs.
And this is the third time these two teams have faced off already. Liberty have won the first two.
Know each other well. That's why I can't bet the Liberty. It's 15-point spread. Indiana has a couple of games against them, as you mentioned, so the element of surprise is gone there. They at least know how to match up with New York, and New York has, as talented as they are, they've underachieved a little bit at times over the course of the past two seasons. So it's a great spot for the Liberty. I can't lay 15 points, and I don't want to bet the Fever on the second leg of a back-to-back going on the road. So pass for me, but should be a good game.
Okay, another rookie who will eventually be making his debut in his league. We're talking Drake May here, Bukes. Drake May, quarterback of the future for the Patriots, and now odds makers are predicting on DK Sportsbook which quarterback will be starting week 1 for New England, Drake May or Jacoby Brissett, who is back in town. So despite not getting any first-team reps and organized team activities here, Brissett is the clear favorite to start week 1, according to DraftKings. Assigned him, at least the number at the time when I saw it was minus 300 odds to be under center. So that
it's coming down.
It's come down, because originally that gives Brissett a 75% chance to grab the week 1 nod here. What do you think? Does Drake May, what do you think about his chances of being under center, being the starting guy week 1?
I think very little. I think, obviously with the whole change in regime when it comes to the Patriots, this is a fresh start for a franchise that has needed one for the past 4 years maybe now at this point. And they want to protect their first round pick, because this is very clear this is going to be their guy. And when you bring in somebody like Jacoby Brissett, who, to be fair, when he's taken the field as a starter, he's always been a fine quarterback. Like, he's not an elite quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. But, like, even when you go back to 2022 when he was starting for the Browns, I mean, he did admirable work in some of those games there. 64% completion rate, had over 2,500 passing yards in that year, 12 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Like, he's fine. Like, he's somebody that can be that bridge guy and get you to where the point where Drake May is comfortable. Because if you look at this Patriots offensive line too, like, this is going to be a major issue like it has been in years past. So it doesn't make sense to, look at the Bryce Young thing.
Yeah.
You throw Bryce Young in there right into the Wolves. Don't give him anybody to throw to, which is exactly what's going to happen with the Patriots here. And you have no offensive line to protect him. And what happened to Bryce Young? He just absolutely crumbled all season long. And that's something that they did address during the draft, but still a lot of work to be done for the Panthers. So I think they're really trying to avoid that with Drake May. You throw the experienced guy in there to start, get Drake May ready, and then, we know by at some point during the year, May will be taking over the starting gig, but it does make sense to throw him out there in week 1.
Jules, during OTAs, May was seen taking snaps from starting center David Andrews, and then Brissett was taking snaps from the backup center there. How soon do you think Drake May could be starting for the Patriots?
I think it could be pretty early. I think it would be the wrong decision, but I think it could be. But again, we're talking different regime, but Cam Newton was a pretty heavy favorite in this same market to be the week 1 starter 3 years ago when Mac Jones was drafted in the first round by the Patriots. He wound up not being on the team week 1 as the favorite to be the starter. It should be Brissett. I think it's now priced more appropriately. But again, this isn't a market, a game market that's built off of analytics and things like that. Like, this is just a made up, if you will, market. It's a guessing game market based off of reports. So, like, when a Tommy Curran, who is local in Boston, or in
very well connected with that,
and well connected and well known, a respected reporter, what I'm trying to say,
friend of the program,
says
we've had him on the show.
That yes, he's been on the Sweat. Says that Drake May is, in the conversation for week 1 starter. That carries some weight and moves markets.
I think it's fair to say treat this like a draft market.
Yeah, exactly. A draft market. Same type of idea. You're going to be lied to, and you're going to get some good information.
Yep.
And it's up to you to pick the right stuff. Brissett should be the starter. It would be irresponsible. That Patriots team that Mac Jones was inserted into was better than this Patriots team to insert Mac Jones was playing in national championship games with good players. Like, to insert Drake May in with the lack of O-line and the lack of pass catchers when you have a guy like Brissett would be irresponsible. You're saying
that based on what we've seen and what we know now, but throughout the summer, training camp, preseason, if May looks better than Brissett,
it can change for sure. It's early.
What is the NFL betting market that has most of your attention right now, Steve?
I mean, not a ton, honestly. Like, I think a lot of people put too much stock into what happens or what doesn't happen during OTAs. Like, this is such, especially when it's a voluntary time, you can't put a lot of stock into this here. Like, I do think looking at win totals is something that is worth taking a look at. Like, we were talking about the Bears stuff earlier, how they don't have a divisional game until week 11. Like, that's information that is, bankable information. We're not going to change, and that's stuff that you can make that decision on. Whereas, like, these starting roles, who's going to start here? Like I just mentioned to Julian, it's like a draft market. Like, it's going to fluctuate based on the news, based what you hear, and it's not like it's more of a guessing game than anything. So if you're going to be taking any bets right now, I think the win totals are something you can really look at, or even some player props, like over/under on their stats here. But, like, going crazy this early in the NFL season when so much can change between now and kickoff in September, I think the ones you want to bank on are those two there.
Jules, what advice do you have for people at home right now with these early NFL markets?
Yeah, one thing that I'll say, I didn't know the stat that Steve gave out today that the Bears don't play their first divisional game till what?
Week 11.
Yeah. Week 11. So
Good
that's
job,
crazy.
Steve.
So what jumps out to me immediately there is leaving that division alone, and that means other teams also play, I don't know if they played that late, but a bulk of late division games for the NFC North.
6 of the last 8.
So, but I'm talking other teams too. That means other teams are involved. So, like, I'm pulling this is not a fact, but I'm saying that means Minnesota plays like 5 division games in the last 8 weeks or whatever. That's probably a good division to bet in, like, November.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, like, let's say a team is doing really well against a poor division, but then they still have all those division games left. What if they do poorly in them? You could probably get a weird number,
right?
Like late in the season, like November 1st, and bet the NFC North and have that change real fast.
Just think right now, the Jags plus 275
Here
to
we
win
go.
the AFC South. Well, our producer today, Mr.
Are the Texans still even money?
Rigia, Texans are plus 105.
Yeah, I'll side with, and even though Tom didn't get us breakfast, which was Bush League,
That
I'll
is
side with
Bush League.
Pirate here
That
and
is
play
Bush League.
Texans.
He has talked an extremely big game for weeks, knowing that this day was coming. He said, "I'd get you calzones, bacon, egg, and cheese
And he
sandwiches."
is eating as
he
he's
said,
talking to us.
He said,
Yeah, he's talking to us in here like 5 minutes left in the show
Yeah,
with
there's
a mouthful of
crumbs,
food.
crumbs with his beef fingers.
All
All right,
Still
everybody.
siding with him on the Texans.
Adios, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
5 second burp.